Mm. Hi, everyone. We just wanted to come on here and hang out with everyone for an unknown amount of time, randomly in the middle of the week. We thought it would be fun, just inspired action. Um, so I don't know, what do you want to start with some questions? How is everyone today? You guys going to drop in the chat? How are you guys feeling today? Where are you guys joining us from? Because I know this is
Yeah,
exciting because we're
I
not in the
think I
same
saw some
country.
of my peeps in here as well. So yeah, if
Fun.
everyone wants to drop us where you're joining us from, that would be awesome.
Yeah, fun. Um, yeah, we're just here to like chat and we have some questions that came in that we're gonna
But
answer.
maybe
Hmm.
I was just thinking, like
Yes.
maybe, because I know there's somebody from like my corner of the world here. Maybe
Hmm.
you want to introduce yourself, Amber.
Oh
Let's do this
yeah.
properly. Like let's do
Somebody's
this for
people.
real. Let's do
Yes.
this properly. Let's
Okay.
have you introduce yourself.
Perfect. I'm Amber. Um, I am from California, and Steffi and I connected through a podcast that Shaylee, my work husband, and I did. And the moment that we got on the call with her, we were like, Steffi needs to be a part of this event. We want Steffi in our lives in real life. And so, I am, what am I? I am a recovering horse trainer, recovering performance horse trainer. And the reason I created this event, which is sort of why we're all coming together, is um, because I feel like horsemanship land is very much a traditional boxed in idea of the way things are and have always been. And this is the way you do it. And I myself was definitely stuck in that space for a very long time. And you don't know what you don't know. And so I come from a place of deep empathy for people on their journey, wherever they're at in their journey. Um, and I feel like I just got off a podcast interview. So like I feel like all this stuff, I'm like, oh, didn't we already talk about all this? No, we didn't.
We did
Um, I
it.
know. And and so through my own, we'll say dark night of the soul, I came to a place where I understood that there was a disconnect between what was happening for the horses that I was working with and then sending back to their people. And because I was so disconnected from myself, I didn't really understand what it was. I just knew that it didn't really feel right and I didn't know what to do about it until I went through a really painful divorce and had just my life flipped upside down. And then the one thing that I could identify with that I was good at, where I was a bad wife. I felt like I was a bad mother and I was a bad business owner because then I had to sell my business and I had to move off of my property and everything was just flipped upside down. And what I knew was that I was a good horse trainer. And, but what happened was my horses were like, we're going to bring forth these lessons for you. And they did. And they started to fall apart. And then I was like, my entire identity came unraveled. But it's beautiful because it led me on this path of looking more into why this stuff happens and the patterns that were happening in my life and what to do about it. And it led me to get my coaching certificate. It led me to get my somatic breathwork certificate, just all these different modalities that I sort of smashed together. And my horses have just been guiding me in what to do next. And so this event really stems from me being at a regular expo and realizing that it wasn't actually necessarily safe for a lot of my clients to go watch the trainers that were there. And these are trainers that had huge followings, and there were so many people in the audience. And, I had been in my own little world on my property because the culture of our barn is very different. And so I hadn't been out in the real world in a long time. And we went there, and it was really shocking and overwhelming for me. And this is someone who's very well known. And there were so many people just applauding. And so, and it was like, oh crap, like this is wild. And I can see my clients like in the bleachers, like turning around and looking back at me. And I'm like, we are not all getting up and walking out at the same time, okay? Because they all know you're with me. And they know that I'm a presenter here. So I'm gonna act like I have to go to the bathroom. Y'all can trickle out how you need to, but don't come following after me. And so I think the inspiration for this and a couple other things came from that, where I wanted it to be a safe place for people to come learn, and also something that they had yet to even know was a different way to do it. And I know that most of my evolution in horsemanship has not come from horse events. They've all come from different outside things that I've done. And I really wanted to go, how do I pull in those experiences and also mesh it with actually learning stuff you can go do with your horse as well? And needing presenters that I knew weren't going to go like rogue out there and all of a sudden turn into something that I didn't expect and have it be like this thing. So everybody was picked very specifically because I know who they are. And I think all of us are deeply rooted in this foundation of connection, and we all connect through to the horse, to the person, back to themselves in different ways, but it's all the same. And that strand that holds us all in that in alignment with each other is what I feel is so potent, because then people can go and they can hear the same thing said sort of differently by many different people. And sometimes that lands, I think, a lot easier when, you're in a place like this. And I wanted it to be, being an auditor at something like this is really powerful because you get to sit in your own space and witness what's happening, sometimes often more than actually being out there and doing it. But I wanted it to be more than just people watching. I wanted to be able to pull the people in and let them have the experience, asking them questions throughout it, knowing that when you do buy a ticket, you get this whole online experience beforehand that actually sets you up to understand like what we're doing and what we're talking about. Um, so I wanted it to be so much more than just like an expo. I want it to be kind of in that format, but like so much more. And it hasn't really been done. And so it's been tricky to navigate of how to even explain to people like what's going to be happening. Um, and I was just talking to Danielle on the podcast that we just did, and she was like, to hear you explain what it is so different from, like reading the sales page. She's like, I didn't really understand it. Now I feel like I do. And now I'm really sad that I'm not going, and
Right.
it's, and so trying to put it into words, it's like that whole people don't know that they need the things that really bring them back to themselves. And I think even if you say that, a lot of people are like, what do you mean connect with myself? Like, what does that even mean? So it's kind of like tricky. It's a tricky space, and so the way that I've looked at it as far as like sharing it with people is that there is this sense of you can do horsemanship, but there's so much more of an elevated level you can do it at that maybe is not even, it's not wrong what you're doing, but there's this whole nother level that you can get to if you do this other piece with it. Um, and I feel like who I am is who I am. I connect people with each other. I connect people to themselves. I connect horses to their people, and vice versa. I think I'm just going to start calling myself a connector.
I like it.
Just a connector.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I
Yeah.
guess I guess it is really hard to put it into words. Everything that you've just said is so there is so much depth to it. There are so many layers to it. How do
Mhm.
you put that into like a sales page or just
I
a
know.
page? It doesn't even matter. Like
I know.
it's so complex and there are so many intricate little details. How do you even express that in words,
I
I
know.
struggle with this a lot as well when I
Mhm.
put my stuff out there, and I'm sometimes wondering, am I just throwing this into the void, and is ever something going to come back to me? And then
Mhm.
eventually I'll hear this echo and I go, oh, okay, that was like a year ago. Interesting. But, you know, but
Yeah.
yeah, but now for this event, I mean, there is so much beautiful things that, or so many beautiful things that you've touched on. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel honored to be there with you, and I honestly I cannot wait. I'm so excited. It's like
Mhm.
I'm bouncing
I know.
around the whole time, going, "Oh my God, I'm actually going to go there."
I know.
So
It
for
is going to be
everyone
really
who
fun.
doesn't know, I wanted to meet Amber, Shaylee, Celeste, Tara, and the others. I wanted to meet all of you. I had my eye on you guys beforehand. So I've been fangirling over these ladies, and yeah, to be asked to come and present alongside, that's just incredible magic.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I mean, for those of you, I know we did a podcast together that we kind of talked about, who you are, but, for the people, if they're watching a replay and they don't follow you, you want to share who you are and what you do.
Oh, so
We're
I
interviewing
can
each
do.
other today.
Yeah, this is good. I mean, yeah, we said we're going to talk about connection and all stuff, but I guess it makes sense to not just introduce you, but maybe me too. Yeah, so we've done this before, we swear. Um, yeah, so I'm Steffi. I am an equine scientist. I've studied equine science, my bachelor's and my master's degree actually in the UK. And I so on this journey, I've always been really connected to horses, always loved horses, always wanted to be better for horses, and always had this dream of wanting to change the world for the better for them. I That sounds really big, and I don't know, but kind of that's what I feel.
Mhm.
And I went on this journey because I studied equine science, and yes, you get all the tools, you get all the explanations for a lot of things. But I had a pony called Bee, and this was basically a little Exmoor pony in the UK that joined me as a companion for my horse who had to move yards. And it's a long story. I'll cut it down to this. This pony was severely traumatized, and it wasn't just the physical. So when we look at so my business or me, what I do is called Science for Soundness. And at uni back then, people always talked about soundness and just mentioned the physical aspect. So a horse that isn't sound is a horse that is lame, not showing up right. But that's not really it. And it really hit me in the face. Like I have a friend, he uses this saying, like it hits you in the face like a wet fish, like getting slapped with a wet fish or something. So I really felt like that getting this pony into my life, because I had all this knowledge and I wasn't able to touch her. I wasn't able to come close to her. I wasn't able to connect with her. And I had this beautiful mare son who was with me and like present the whole time, and this little girl B who kept running away from me. And it wasn't just that. She was so traumatized. She also went into fight mode with me a lot. So she kicked into sympathetic activation a lot. And basically that spiraled at some stage, and all of my knowledge didn't help me. So I had to come up with different questions and find different answers. And really, like you were saying, it's not so much from those big events, or it's the smaller moments or different experiences that helped me shine a light on what actually it was that B needed from me back then. And she presented me with a lot of questions that threw me deep down into a big dark hole. So I think we've all kind of been there. But yeah, in the end, she was also the one who showed me who I really was and what I was able to come out with in order to help her, but also help other horses. So yeah, this little pony, she basically sent me onto this journey, and now Science for Soundness is this thing. And it all started back then. It actually started when she joined me as well. This is how it started. And yeah, so I'm basically looking at not just the physical, but also the mental, emotional, and also spiritual states of horses, because I feel like soundness is all of that. It's not just the physical. We have
Yeah.
this fly flying around
That's
here.
our guest fly who's joined
Yeah,
us.
it's like my spirit animal today or something. I don't know. It's this fly. Just keeps going in front of the camera as well.
You'll have to look up the meaning of flies showing up. I'm sure
You're
there is
gonna
a
look
meaning.
that
That's
up
what
right now.
Shaylee immediately is like, hold on.
Yeah.
Anytime anything shows up weird, she's like, I need to know what this means.
Yeah, it's lingering around here. So let's
So
see.
funny.
But yeah, this is kind of where I came from, and this is why I wanted to dive deeper into what it actually was that was missing. So for me, it felt like the traditional training experiences always explored the obedience side of things. So get your horse to do what it is that you want them to do. But I was faced with this pony that at the pure sight of a head collar would bolt and run away 100 meters.
Mhm.
So there I was. And the thing is, it took me 6 months to get to a place where she felt safe with me. And so many people would say to me, yeah, but you studied this shit. Why did you not just catch her? And honestly, I didn't understand. I kept going, yeah, of course I could have caught her, but it's not about me forcing that thing on her and then
Mhm.
catching her. It's about me forming that bond, forming that connection. And in order to get that, I have to be safe for her and she has
Mhm.
to feel safe around me. And we have to have this setting where it's okay to just be, basically.
Yeah.
Be. But yeah, to just be and not actually have an agenda pressed um, on us, you know.
Yeah.
That's
There was
that's how it all started. Hmm.
Yeah, there was this we just talked about, I guess somewhere in my website. She's great. Danielle was really thorough with her research before we I was like, did I say that? She was like, yeah, it's profound.
Oh
I
my
was like,
God.
oh, look at me go. Where she was like, yeah, it says, you spent the first half of your career making horses safe for their people, and then the second half realizing that you were actually needing to make the people safe for the horses.
Hmm.
And I think just because horsemanship land tells you this is the way it's been done, there's this respect that needs to be had, and you need to show them you're the leader, and and why the importance of when I would have people come in, this is the latter half of my career, was that is what I was doing. I was, coming in, these horses were pretty shut down, or they were in total fight or flight, whatever it was, but I was very clear with the first 3 weeks at minimum were going to be me standing around with this horse.
Hmm.
And they had to understand they also had to be there for it. And so getting the part where the person was safe for the horse came from them witnessing my ability to not bring in an agenda and to watch how potent it was for the horse to unwind in front of this person by me not doing anything, having no expectations, just being connected with them. And then having the person, me getting to know they're human. Like, what are your stories about this horse? What needs are being met by your horse having this behavior, quote unquote, issue? Because there's always something tied into that. And
Hmm.
after that time period and those hours and hours spent of doing that, then going and tacking the horse back up and the behavioral issues that were quote unquote there before were just magically gone. And I was like,
Hmm.
why don't people understand that all of the things that you have going on that's blocking your performance or blocking the connection come from your horse not feeling safe? So like
Yeah.
it's a simple fix, but not simple because once you have to sit in that stillness with your horse, then you have to address the things that go on within the stillness within yourself. And I think that's mostly what people get uncomfortable with, where it's like, I
I
don't
was
know if
gonna
I want to
say.
look at that stuff, you
Yeah.
know? And but that is the key. And it seems too simple, I think, for people to go, that can't be. You can't fix all of those problems. And I'm like, I mean, sometimes there are physical ailments that are causing it, but I will tell you that that nervous system is the most underrated, underrated tool you have in training because, first of all, when you talk about Celeste's work, Pillar One is all about being in the receiving mode and just being. And I
Hmm.
think people will take it and go, you need to put your horse's head here. And she's like, no, your horse's head will go there when and it's like, so it's like interesting that she has this method, but it does the same thing. It brings you back
Hmm.
to you. And I think all of the presenters at this event have their own way of doing that in a different way, but it is all a core premise of that you have to be connected with yourself to be able to go into that mode. And then all of a sudden, like the performance stuff and these things that were problems before seem irrelevant to you craving that feeling of connection that you get in those moments. Cause that's what I was just talking about with Danielle, where she was like, yeah, I started out 2 years ago doing Celeste stuff and I wanted to rehab my horse's hind end and I wanted to do this thing. And she's like, then I realized something happened. And then I just
Hmm.
didn't care, like, because the feeling is what I craved with that connection. And then all of a sudden, the other stuff was kind of just not there anymore. And like the deep healing that happens on a physical and energetic level when you can do that is something that I think people don't really truly understand, which is what I really want people to understand. It's very
It's
powerful.
so hard though, isn't it? You can't quite explain it. I think that's something I struggle with in my work as well, is to I cannot explain, I mean, I can explain connection in many ways, but it is something that has to be experienced.
Mhm.
And it's something you have to feel. And if you've never felt that before, then it's really hard to know what you're looking for, right?
Mhm.
So what does it feel like? How does it look like? And we can touch on a few things that will, it likely will feel like this or likely look like that, or it might make you feel like that or whatever. But it's really hard to say for sure this is what it is for you, because again, it's so unique to every single one of us. It's
Mhm.
so there is not one like feeling that would be the same for all of us, I think.
Mhm.
And the situations are so different as well. And when it just suddenly happens, because you don't think about it so much and you don't try and force it, and then it
Yeah.
it just happens, and people go, "Oh my God, Steffi, I think I got it." And I love getting these messages because it just makes it all so worthwhile. But it's just so hard to explain, right? It's
Mhm.
really hard to pull out and
Yeah.
go, "This is what it is." Um,
Mhm. Yeah, and I was saying, I was just talking that the last call I just did was I myself was so disconnected. Oh, as human beings, we are wired for connection. We are wired to crave connection from
mm,
the moment we are like brought onto this earth side. And we're craving that, we're seeking it as babies. It is what we are hardwired to have. And then for me in my own journey, after my divorce and after everything kind of fell apart, I started on this path of going to these different seminars and going to different sessions and having these different experiences. And I went to a theta session. It was my first theta session, and I had already done therapy, talk therapy, and I was like, oh, like, yeah, I get it. This is where it started, and it just didn't feel like, and it was it. And someone recommended, oh, you should go talk to Rochelle. Rochelle's freaking magical. I still talk to her on the regular basis because she's the reason I exist. Still, she's magical. She will also be at the event. Um, and she had asked me, she was doing some muscle testing, and she asked me, are you human? And I'm like at the point where I'm at the very beginning of my journey, and I'm like,
what you
what is
talking
she? What, dude? Like, why is this person asking me if I'm human? Clearly I'm a human. Like, oh, but it was no. And I was like, what do you mean no? It's like, yeah, I'm a
Okay.
human. She was like, no. And I was like, she's like, what I feel like it's you have disconnected, have not been able to connect with humans. I didn't grow up in a space where I was deeply connected with anyone. I connected with animals. I would go out into the backyard and live in my own magical world. Um, you know, I lost my dad at a very young age. My mom was a single mom, young, going to school full time working. I was kind of being raised by my grandparents, and they were having their own, I had grew up with a schizophrenic uncle who lived in the house. Like, so there was just like pretty much chaos, and I would escape into the backyard. So I don't think I never really learned that I could connect with other humans, which is why I think I was so drawn to horses, which I think is why a lot of people are so drawn to horses, because I don't think that that is just some unique experience that I had. I think a lot of people grow up not knowing what real connection feels like.
Mm,
And 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 what the horses did for me was then through this process, that is what allowed me to feel in my body what actual unconditional acceptance and love felt like first
mm,
with another being before I could trickle out and try it out on a human because humans are way scarier to be vulnerable with and to, be able to even look at and not judge because, I think anything we're judging in someone else, we're judging within ourselves first. And so it's way harder to go do that because but people do that with their horses too. The stories that are created about their horse serves a need for them. My horse is XYZ. Well, what does that do for you if your horse is that way? And people are
mm,
sometimes like, oh, excuse me, what are you talking
mhm,
about? I'm like, well, why do you need your horse to be that way? And people are like, what are you talking? Like so offended. And I'm like, just asking the hard questions because there's something in that.
mm,
Um, and so I think that experience of connection came from I did learn how to and know what it felt like through them, which allowed me to be able to eventually evolve and go, I can do that with humans too. Because for the longest time, I would be like, I love the horses. I'm a horse trainer. The people can kick rocks. Like they're ruining everything. I was so judgy. I was such an asshole. I'm so honest about
right.
it. I was so like, and I wasn't like a mean person, but in my head, I'm sure energetically people felt it where I was like, yeah, I want to help your horse because I feel bad for it because it's with you. Like that was the vibe I'm sure I was giving off because
Right.
I just couldn't connect with people. I had no idea. People were not safe for me to connect with. And So now I think from the work, I'm like, oh, I like deeply love people, actually, actually really like people. Um, and so that just came from me learning how to receive that from the horse or feel that in my nervous system to be able to actually like, oh, I can actually just be here and be seen and it's not scary. I'm not being judged by them. And and I think that people can have that from other people. They just don't know they can. And the beauty of having events like this and communities like this is that that is what you create in that container. And then people are
Mm.
never the same once they leave. And that's the experience that I had at non-horse events
Yeah.
that I wanted people to have. I want them to have that in real life. Like I want you to know that you can stand next to a person and go, I don't know what I'm doing. And I think I'm failing. And the person go, oh,
I got you.
yeah, you're fine. I felt like that way too.
Mm.
And that's what I feel like I have with the people I have in my life. Like, how many times have I gone into the messenger and be like, I'm freaking out, like everything's falling apart, and everybody's like, Snack, you're fine, everything's fine. I'm like, okay, okay, I
We love
want
you.
I want everybody to have that experience in their life because it is so
Mm.
amazing to be so supported and be able to show up exactly how you are, not pretending you're anything that you're not, and then still have
Yeah.
people go, you're gonna be fine and everything is great. And when you can't see yourself, have other people see you and remind you, and then you can go, okay, I can keep going now. Okay, I'm fine. We're gonna keep going.
It's so powerful. It's so powerful. And actually, even just being in, I mean, I have my own little community going
Mm,
on, but even just being in that group with you guys and seeing that exchange and being part of that, it's so empowering and so I really get it. I really get
mhm,
it. I think this is also what I want for everyone I come into contact with and people I connect with each other. And I love that this is the spirit of the event, that
mhm,
you can just show up as all of who you are and
mhm,
be safe and seen and supported in all of that
mhm,
without being judged. If you don't
mhm,
like, I will 100% for sure be intimidated standing in
mhm,
front of people talking about something that I deeply care about. It makes me feel vulnerable.
mhm,
And but this is the thing, like you saying the human experience, right? I
mhm,
just hopped off a call yesterday and I was so freaked out by the
mhm,
fact that I was speaking in front of, I don't know, potentially 90 trainers and
mhm,
professionals from the equine industry. And I used myself as an example. I was like, look, you guys, I am here, I'm showing up, but look at what's happening. Like my face is
mhm,
starting to go really red. I'm
mhm.
starting to be really uncomfortable right
I did
now.
that too.
And it's amazing because
Mhm,
all of them, like that makes me human, that makes me
mhm,
authentic, and I'm not better than them. I am bringing something to that table, but I'm not
mhm.
saying I'm better than you because I have this.
Right.
You have something else. And I didn't deliberately ask them beforehand. I didn't want to know what they're all doing. So I was like, please don't tell me. I don't want to know what your profession is. Like some of them were physios, some of them were trainers, some of them, doing amazing stuff. All of them trainers though in some way or another. And I was like, I don't want to know. So just come as you are, I'm
Mhm,
Steffi, you're Amber,
mhm,
everybody here,
mhm.
we don't need to define ourselves by those titles and stuff.
Right.
So yeah, I really love that this event offers the chance for everybody to just come as who they are and bring
Mhm,
what they have to offer. And I like the idea of it being immersive in a way that it's not just about sitting. So the expos that you were describing, I think we have something similar here as well in
mhm,
Europe. And it's basically you watch somebody perform something, and it always feels a bit icky in a way because I mean, yeah, of course, I've been part of something like that as well, actually, once. And it was a really interesting experience because there were so many things that didn't quite align with who I am and who my horse is.
mhm,
So to have to do something for the sake of it and
mhm,
other people seeing that, I think it's visible for people to pick up on this. So to have an event that is based around that connection piece, that safety piece, I think that is beautiful. And then not just the humans, but also the horses.
mhm.
And you also get to see the real deal then, right? But it's not going to be a performance in that sense.
Right.
So we're not going to wave magic wands and people are going to have massive changes in the span of 2 minutes. I mean, they might do. I think that's possible entirely, but
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think I like that. I like that it's real. It's not a
Mhm.
performance in that sense. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. At the first expo that I did, that's what first went out there and I was like, I'm going to explain the nervous systems. Do you hear how dry my mouth is? Like, and I went through like, I'm human and I am like, have never stood in front of this many people before. And so to draw those parallels where people go, oh, you're a human. And now I can actually hear you. You're not some mythical being that's going to do magical things with a horse that I could never do, but I'm going to watch you do it and hope that one day I can do it. It's like, I think I love about all of the presenters that are coming is that everybody is so real, and everybody is very open in the way that they're like, nobody is out there thinking that they are better than anyone ever. Every
Mm.
single person that's there was like, I'm totally fangirling over everyone that's gonna be there. Like,
Right?
but like everyone, and it's like, but why? Like, because we deeply respect the work of the other people.
Yeah.
And I think for people to watch, especially women, and I talked about this with Denise, where it's like there's so much competition in the horse world.
Mm.
And for women in general. And I don't have women in my life that I feel like I would ever not celebrate them having success. Like it's almost like I am having my own success when the women that I have in my life are having success. And I
Yeah.
feel like people don't get to witness that very much. I think that there's just a lot of not that happening. And I think that's important for them to also go experience because woman to woman, like the sisterhood, this woman to woman, not to say men aren't invited, but when men just don't show up to my, like any events that we do, this just the men don't come, and that's fine. We're not saying they can't. We love men,
They
but
just choose not to.
it's just, it'd be a great place for someone to meet, a man to meet some lots of women. Um,
Hmm.
but but they just don't show up. So it's interesting because it is like this, I don't know if it's the energy of the presenters or what we are, attracting and calling in, but to have women be around other women authentically and safely, it's like there's so much deep healing around that just in itself. So I feel like that's
Yeah.
also a whole nother element to this event that how do you put that on a sales page? I'm gonna heal your sister wound. Like, I don't know. It's not gonna translate well. You just come
You
because
know
you
what
feel
I
drawn.
felt like? Maybe that would help put that out there somehow. But I felt like it's sounds a bit like out there. But anyway, it felt like connecting with all of you guys and speaking to you and meeting you and just being invited into that group just felt like coming home of some kind.
Mm,
And I realized it's not coming home to, I mean, yes, it is coming home to some sisters, like you're saying, like
mm,
soul family in a way, but it's also coming home to more parts of myself
mhm,
because I feel like because of you and offering me that space and inviting me into that, I get access to something that was deep inside of me that I never looked at before because
mhm,
nobody shone a light on that. So
mhm,
okay, how do you put that on a sales? I don't know. But I think this is what it feels like coming home to yourself, connecting with yourself. Again, it's part of that, isn't it? And
mhm,
meeting yourself more and more by throwing yourself into these experiences. And personally, I like a challenge. I like to not always know 100% what to expect because we learn a lot when we do that. So
mm,
I don't think you have to have everything like laid out.
right. Yeah.
Because it's a real experience, so it's going to shift as it goes. But
Mhm.
maybe I think should we do some questions actually? Because I'm
Yeah.
thinking I had one question asking. Let me just look that up because I got so many questions. And one of them I think was, so I have a lot of questions on the event. I've got some general questions, and I have one very specific question. And on the event, because I think that was like a nice segue, wasn't it? So I'm just gonna use that. Um, there was a question about the agenda. Like, can you tell
Mhm,
us how the day will be structured and what the agenda will be like? And
mhm,
I think everyone who's here today, if you have any questions on the event, you can pop that in the chat, or if you have any questions, really, we're happy to answer them. But
mhm.
yeah, just maybe we should talk about the agenda or what's
Yeah.
happening. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Amber.
October 17th is the extra experience. So there's two different options. That one is actually almost sold out, ironically. So the 17th.
Wow.
Yeah, they're limited amount of seats because we wanted to keep it very intimate. And that is an extra day. So we start at 3 on the 17th. Shaylee and I will be leading a ceremony for a few hours, and then there'll be a break, and then there's a cocktail hour, and then there is a um catered dinner at the facility in the clubhouse. It's really pretty. It'll be all decorated and fun. And then you get to have dinner with all the presenters. So you get some one-on-one time. You get to really get to know them, hang out, for a few hours. And that's how we're gonna start Thursday. Friday is the main event. Start in the morning. Shaylee and I will open up with a ceremony. And there is word that potentially the local tribe, the Native American tribe, is going to come do an opening blessing on the land for the event as
Wow.
well. Don't know
Actually
for
getting
sure. I
goosebumps.
know.
Wow.
I know. The cool things just keep coming as we get closer. Like people are like, oh, and this, and I'll add this. I'm like, oh, it's just
Wow.
getting better. Um, and then each presenter will have an hour, to work with a horse and their person, which we have all of our horses and our people now, which is cool. And we'll have a lunch break. And then after the lunch break, Catherine Lowry she is a specialist in human biomechanics, and she's going to take everybody there through these exercises that are very easy and very gentle. But I don't know what happens. They are magical. They like unlock things in your body or you're like, oh, just to bring everyone back from lunch, get them present, and then the rest of the presenters will go. Friday night, there will be booths set up for the presenters themselves and also the supporting professionals that'll be there. So if you want to talk feet, if you want to talk teeth, if you want to, there's a Beamer representative there. There is Masterson people there. Jim might stop by on Saturday or Friday. There's the human components. Jen does bioscan, which is reads your DNA and she gives you a whole printout on, everywhere you're deficient. And also it does your horse and also ties things to different ages and emotions. And so she's freaking cool that she's going to be
Wow.
there. Rochelle is a medical intuitive. She's one of the people that I've had on podcasts before and my go-to when I'm like, I don't know. And she is she's amazing. She'll come to you and be like, what's happening here? I'm like, oh, I don't know. She'll like, oh, this is what it is. I'm like, oh, okay. Um, so these people are gonna have booths, so you have access to connect and ask questions and all these people. And then there's going to be a dinner that will come that you have the ability to purchase. And hopefully I have Jenny who hopefully is going to come and do live music. So there's just going to be a whole hangout time after the first day. So you don't have to just leave. Like we get to stay, connect with presenters, with each other and just hang out. Um, and then after that, the next day was Saturday, just a normal presenters, ceremony opening, closing. And then Sunday is a half day. So in the morning, there'll be like light breakfast available for you guys. And then there's a live panel, like question and answer session until noon. So any questions that came up that you're dying to ask, then those will all be there for you to be able to do that for the last day. And there's the Facebook group that allows you to stay connected after. I am going to do a follow-up call. I think after we let people go home and we'll get like a consensus on the time that people can meet the most. I wanted to wait until we had everyone in there. And then there are two pre-calls to help you guys get set up for the event. If you have questions on the online portion that you get when you buy the ticket, gets you set up. So if you have questions or you need extra coaching around that, then that's available before we go. Um, Through the online portion, there are themes. There are three different themes, and those will be integrated into the actual event. So the first day is the fire. There will be a giant cauldron there. She's coming with me. And we're going to burn any old stories, anything you want to release. It's like write it down, put it in the pot, and we'll have a whole ceremony around that and clear that. Second day is sifting through those ashes, like what's left after all of the things you've been told, the conditioning you've had, the stories you've had that are not true or that you no longer want to be true. What's left? What are the virtues that you've gained from those? And then the third day, we have a little something, something for you to take home to help you with integration, where you can have with you to remind you this is the energy from the event. And I'm going to hold on to this as I go through this hard conversation or this transition I need to make, or if I need to speak up for myself or, something to take home with you. So that'll be big tissues for burning old stories. Oh my gosh, I know. I know. I always have to remember. I always I
I'm
always
getting
forget the
goosebumps. I'm like,
tissues.
I'm already like, oh my God, I mean, it sounds so incredible. I cannot wait. Honestly,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, but yeah.
No. Yeah, I just looked because Jeanette was like the tissues. I'm like, damn those tissues. I always forget the tissues. But so yes, we will have plenty of tissues available. Maybe get some with like the logo on the box or something.
Yes,
It'll be a
okay.
fun little in the
Try
care
with
package. You'll
us.
also get tissues. Um, But yeah,
Oh,
just that clearing of that, like, how do I just clear all this stuff that, and being in the presence of people and having be safe to like look next to the person like you're sobbing and it's like, yep, here I am. Like, the very
mm,
first event that we did, the Elements of Connection, Shaylee was like, I'm not gonna cry. You can't make me cry. And I pride myself on being the like plumber of emotions. And I was like, okay, challenge accepted. And I think in the very first session, in the first like 10 minutes, I look over and she's sobbing and Celeste is like holding her. And I was like, I don't want to celebrate that, but also I do because there are people that have all of this just locked in. And it's like, you have
mm,
to let that out. It's going to make you actually physically sick if you do not start letting this stuff flow through you,
a hundred
so.
percent.
So,
Mm,
and we don't, we're trying to get our horses to not take on this stuff for us as well. So it's serving everyone. So yeah, there will most likely be tears. There always is, but it's gonna be great. I'm gonna make you cry. It's gonna be great.
I love crying. I mean, I've always been very in touch with my emotions and very outspoken about them. But I think over the years and last year, I was faced with some health issues. And it all brought back that, oh shit, yeah, there is that. I should not neglect this. This is my
Hmm.
home. Like I am my home. And I keep looking outward to all these things, but actually I need to take care of this as well, first
Hmm.
and foremost, actually. So, yeah, I learned to cry a lot. So I'm happy to do that alongside with all of you. um, but yeah, it's so important to let that out and to understand what it is. And yeah, oh,
Yeah.
sounds incredible. I mean, yeah, so you were saying on the last day, that will be a half day.
Mhm.
Actually, I have one question on note taking, whether there will be a script or a summary or something, or should they take notes?
Yeah, I'm encouraging people to bring journals. We have toyed back and forth with having it videoed, and that is not a certain thing yet. I actually have
Mm,
someone who is currently going to get back to me. I had a hard time. There was toying with live feed and there was toying with having it videoed. And nothing really panned out. And so there is one person left where I just surrendered and said, if it's supposed to happen, this is what will happen. So just waiting to hear on that. So that is still kind of up in the air. But yeah, journals are advised and taking notes, yes, is good because a lot of the times when you're in that and you're witnessing, you're going to hear things people say. Yeah. Um, it's going to be you drawing parallels in your own life and being able to be like, oh, hold on. And, Shaylee and I throughout, the transition between different presenters and whatever else, and even the presenters themselves may ask you questions, and
mm,
to have you be in such a place where you're aligned, you're feeling safe. Some of the answers would be different than they would normally be if you were just doing real life out in the real world and asked that question. Like things happen where energy shifts heavily at events like this. So yeah, you might surprise yourself with the stuff that wants to fall out of your pen onto your paper.
mm. I agree. I always wave a journal and say, take notes because
Yeah.
yeah, like you're saying, sometimes it just happens, it just comes out.
Mhm.
So that's cool. Do people here have any questions so far? Any questions? Doesn't have to be on the event, could be anything. We're happy to talk. I'll just continue with the questions on the event whilst we're at it, if that's
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
Um, so you said already that we have the horses and people for the event. So one
Mhm.
question is, what kind of horses will we see in the sessions at the event?
Um,
Like
there's
what?
all different horses, all different disciplines, all different levels. It's a very, very wide range of um, people that are participating. I know some of them, and I think what each of them bring is that there's somewhere they're experiencing some type of disconnection, whether it's a
Mm,
disconnection from the body, their inability to connect with the person. There's some behavior stuff, there's anxious stuff, there's, horses that are in shutdown. So there is a good wide mix of what is going to be able to be witnessed in a way that, and I didn't know how to match the people and the horses, like the presenters. And so I think I'm gonna have Shaylee. I'm gonna have her talk to the horses and let them decide who they need to be matched up with. She doesn't know that yet, but
now
that's what
she'll
she is.
know.
Yeah.
So there you go. Easy done. Okay. That's cool. That sounds
Yeah.
so I mean I don't want to know. I think I want to just meet them when I'm there. So
Yeah.
let's not focus on that. So
Don't tell me. Don't tell me.
yeah, exactly. It's like that. Don't tell me. I don't want to know. So otherwise I'll be like my mind will be going. Um okay. One more question on actually. Oh, I think that's interesting. So one question is how far does my horse need to be in their training in order for us to benefit from the event and the learnings I get from there?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I think it's not going to matter where in it, because this foundational piece of, how connected deeply to myself am I actually, like how connected am I actually to my horse? Like, was that us or the last? I think it was with Danielle, the last call I was on, where she was like, I felt like all of a sudden I was seeing my horse for the first time and also
Mm,
seeing parts of me that I've never seen for the first time. And we're so boxed in to our own special world. And I even said one of the questions she asked at the very end was, she asked me if you could want anything for, the horse industry, what would it be? And I was like, for people just to remain curious, because I can't even say I wish everyone would see things the way I see them, because I myself could be very boxed in from where I stand. There could be so much more of an expansive place that I could be seeing things from that I can't see from where I am right now. Like this version of me can't see that yet. And
mhm.
I'm remaining curious to go, maybe there's more. Maybe there's something that I don't understand that it's going to open me up even more. So I feel like it doesn't really matter where you're at, what level it is, what discipline you ride. It doesn't matter. It's more of staying curious to no matter what, I can give 100% money back guarantee that if you come to this event, you are not walking away the same. Like that is something that I know
Mhm.
indefinitely and I am very certain about. And so, to that question, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And not to even say like it's going to trickle over into your like human life, like your relationships with people are going to change. Like
They will, yeah.
some of it might look like shedding away and not having those relationships anymore. Some of it looks like grieving different versions of you that held on to
Mm,
these things that you identified with so strongly. And then those are being dismantled, and you're like, oh God, I don't even know who I am, which can feel uncertain and unsafe sometimes. But then when you're supported, it's like, yeah, we're all going through that. And that was kind of the purpose of doing the podcast with everyone, because everybody has that theme of, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Like, I don't know, and then to let people know that is part of the process and is not
yeah.
abnormal and it is not something that you are experiencing alone. That is something that throughout your lifetime, you're going to continue to experience. And the amount of freedom on the other side of each of these like up levelings is not anything compared to anything else. It's worth all of it, and I look back at like my divorce and I look back at I had this autoimmune thing that I was dealing with after my divorce, and I know that that was connected with the stress from the divorce, and there's all these things that I learned that when I was in it, I was like, dude, okay, with this shit. I'm tired. I'm done. Like I just don't. I want off the ride. Like, and I look back when you're in it is like you can't sometimes see it, but if you know this is part of the process, the discomfort that I am experiencing right now is literally part of the process. And I know on the other side of this, I'm going to understand it. So I can just stay present to this. I don't have to get swept away in it. I can go deeper into what is this about? Like, what am I supposed to be learning? I know
Mm,
there's something in this, instead of kind of being like, oh, this always happens to me and like falling victim to it and feeling like you don't have control over it. It's like you can shift your experience and how you're experiencing the world just by understanding a lot of these concepts, and really gives you your power back to go, okay, I am in this shit right now and it does suck. And I'm going to acknowledge that and I'm going to let myself feel sad. I'm going to let myself feel upset about it, whatever. But then also, like, I am going to progressively say, there is something, and she asked me, what is one of your favorite phrases to say? And I was like, if not this, then better. So
hmm
that's something I say all the time, because it's like, if not this, then better is helping you release the expectations of a story that you have, or like what you think needs to happen in order for XYZ to be. It's like, if not this, then better. And even with this event in the planning process, it was like, Celeste had said something to me in one of my meltdowns where she was like, maybe this isn't even about this event. You got the vision for this event. The event is supposed to happen. It is
hmm
happening. She's like, but maybe this isn't even the big thing. Like, this is just what you needed to show the universe you were willing to do for the big thing to happen. And I was like, oh God. So it's like
What is the big thing? Like,
continuously expanding the box that you live in and go,
mm,
maybe there's more. I've been called to do this. So, um,
mm,
this is what I'm doing. So, oh,
yeah.
Carolyn asked, why does nobody have their pictures up? Is it not allowed? We can see you guys. Um, we are going to post this publicly, so I wanted to be able to preserve the privacy of the people that are watching. So that's why.
But we can see
Yeah, we
you.
can see all of you.
No, I really like that actually. I always say not what you're saying with if not this, then better, but
Mhm.
I say it's either the thing you wanted or the lesson you needed. So
Yeah.
that's my approach, but it's the same thing, isn't it?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think this is a really interesting question in so many ways because this how far does my horse need to be in the training? Because it kind of shows that our systems, like the population and the
Mm-hmm.
communities we live in, the systems that we grow up in, like nursery,
Mm-hmm.
kindergarten, whatever, school, university, work, we're stuck in these systems that dictate how things are supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that basically sums the whole event up in so many ways because it's not this is the way it's supposed to go and this is what you have to bring and that is how much you have to learn and this is
Mm-hmm.
the outcome. It's open and
Mm-hmm.
and it allows for so much vastness because it's so open for everybody, but I think that also can be a bit scary for some people,
Yeah.
because we're so used to these systems. And I mean, you broke out of that, I broke out of that in some ways,
Mm-hmm.
but we all have that inside of us in many regards still. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that can be quite scary.
Yeah. It's very much in the conditioning of it doesn't even matter what country you're in, there's still each,
Mm,
culture has their own like this is the way. So you grow up thinking, yes, there's levels. And then once I reach this level, it
yeah.
means this about me. And that's kind of ties into the stories of what if there was no level? What if there was no there?
Mm,
And people are like, oh God, but then what's the point of me? And I've asked that question. It's like, well, what's the point then? Like, what are we doing here?
mm,
And Shaylee and I, after the last live event we did an in-person event here and went to the beach after um and we sat there and there was all these like deep questions being asked and it was like you can look at it as now I'm in this ocean of no pointness. Like, and I don't know-ness and uncertainty. But when you're living in the moment, like each moment is so profound and the
mm,
experience of living in each moment is so satisfying. And I think it's what we're born to do, but we get pulled away from it. And so when you go back into an experience where you're like, oh gosh, like if I don't know what to do, I did a void to vision thing where it's like in the void, where there's just like everything's being dismantled and it's kind of chaos. And you're like, I don't know which decision to make. I don't know like who I am anymore. I don't know what the point of this is. Those are the moments where you just come back to your breath and you go, where can I go find presence? Where can I just be? Usually with
mm.
your horse or in nature or whatever. And you realize that that is the point of life, to experience those
Me,
moments,
yeah.
to just be connected with yourself, be with people that you love, be with animals that
Mm,
you love. Those are the moments that everything feels like there is nothing more and I'm fully satisfied. And
mm,
why are we conditioned and trained to reach for? Because the people that are doing that to you are making money off of it. There's
mm.
consumerism. There's,
Yeah,
like, so I'm not going down that rabbit hole of education, but there is a reason why we are educated the way we are educated. And there is
of course.
historical reasons why. There's
Mm,
reasons why the medical system is the way that it is. And so it's like when you start to break out of these paradigms where you're like, your body does have the ability to heal. And you have this space of, oh, if I get a cut on my hand, that'll heal. If I
mm,
break my arm, it'll heal. Will it heal straight? Is my cut big? Can I suture it? Can I support it to happen better? Yes. But when you go beyond other things of can I restore my liver? Can I heal
mm,
from cancer without medical intervention? We're conditioned to believe that these are things that are not true, when in fact I have witnessed them happen repeatedly doing this work.
mm,
And like Dr. Joe Dispenza with all the science behind it, with the brain scans and him doing this healing work and going, this is what the brain does. And then you are having instant healing. It's like there is proof that that is, but we are so conditioned to believe that we need these things. And it is because others are benefiting from that conditioning. So being curious and being open to how boxed box am I into this belief of this is the way training is? There are levels and they mean I am worthy of this next thing. Are you gaining your worth from a level that you are at? Or can you allow you to just be good enough where you're at in the moment and then see progression from that place versus I'm striving to do this thing so I can feel this way versus I can feel this way. And because I feel this way, I've gotten to where I am. So
Mm.
it's working from the inside out versus needing things on the outside of you to have your needs met, which is you just giving your power away to everything. I need someone to be a certain way for me to feel this. I need this to be checked off the box, or I can't feel worthy. I need, someone to act right, or it's going to ruin my day. Where it's like, why are you handing your power away to everything and anything around you?
Yeah.
Like, I get to choose
Like,
how I freaking feel today. And if anything doesn't align, I can just kick rocks, you know?
mhm.
And that's how you call in the things that you ultimately want. You know what I mean? But we're not taught that way. So why would we, ultimately think that this is why? It's
Mm.
reconditioning and I think there is a shift in the horse world, but it is because the horses are bridging that gap for us to continue the evolution of humans. They're supporting us, they're wisdom keepers. And if we can get to a place where we're open enough to actually hear what they're trying to tell us and the lessons they're trying to give to us or share with us, and it's like we're never going to hear them. And we're just going to have to keep getting the lessons over and over again.
That's the thing, isn't it? You get hit with it so many times until you're ready to look at it. I hate
Yeah.
that part, but you know,
Like, damn it, it's happening
I'm like,
again.
oh, okay, again. Okay, fine.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
looking for those patterns and then kind of
Mm.
finding the root of it and understanding it, accepting it. And then, but the integration is where I think people fall short. Where,
Yeah.
you can go to do the shadow work. And we just talked about this on the last call. I love shadow work. It's like the end all be all to all things. It's like there's this pattern. And if it keeps coming up, it's just going to get so uncomfortable to either physically you have a repercussion or you just mentally break, and
Mm.
you don't have to wait for it to get that far. But sometimes you do because sometimes you don't know. And so it's that awareness of it. Here's the pattern, understanding this is probably where it started and accepting it and going, oh, okay, yeah, this is, of course, I feel this way. Of course, this is why I'm behaving this way. And
Mm.
then deciding, okay, but I don't have to choose that anymore. I know that that some level kept me safe at some point in my life. Great. I love the ego for that. It's doing its job, doing it subconscious. I don't have to think about it every time. But also, you're
Mm.
not thinking about it every time and you're just falling into these old patterns until you become aware. And it's like then the integration is, oh, now I actually have to choose myself right now. And I have to then unwind all these things, these beliefs I have maybe about being unworthy or being selfish or in relationship is what I always go to because that has been my deepest, biggest learning and the most painful lessons have come from my shitty relationships. And so whenever I draw parallels to that stuff, I go straight to that because it's the most relevant for me where I
Mm.
finally in my last relationship, I got it. Was the abandonment, the betrayal, the wounds that were kept coming up. Like, how the am every relationship am I in that I am being cheated on? Like, what is that? Like,
Mm.
I'm a good person and da 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 da, like all the things where I was very in victim mode. Well, that stuff is not right and it does suck when it happens. You are participating in those relationships. And once you become aware of that, and you go, hold on, what's going on right now? It
Mm.
is oh, this is me abandoning myself. Therefore, what is happening in my partners are they're abandoning me. If I'm
Mm.
saying, okay, whatever you need, and it's not what I like or feels good to me, okay, I'm choosing not to see this thing. I'm abandoning myself here in this moment. And you are always going to call in people that are going to abandon you. Friends, work partnerships. It was happening all over for me. It wasn't just in a relationship. And I
Wow.
always say that Shaylee and me starting the podcast together and doing business together healed a lot of abandonment wounds and betrayal wounds and all kinds of stuff because we're very honest with each other and it doesn't always look sweet. Sometimes it's blunt, like, what are you doing right now?
Mm. Yeah.
But I know I don't get defensive with her, which is interesting because with a partner, and her and my partner are actually very much alike. So it's very healing. Thank you, universe, for bringing me these where she can say something to
Sounds
me that's almost
healthy.
exactly like what he'll say. And immediately my betrayal stuff with him is still activated and I'm working through. But she can say it and she's like, well, this is what you're doing. And I'm like, oh, fuck, you're right. you know,
Mm.
and it's because there's this deep level of honesty where I know I don't have the contract to learn that with me and her relationship. That's what we identified. There is no betrayal contract we working with. Working with
Mhm.
something different where it's like she can be who she is and be really blunt, where some people will take offense to that, but I don't. I'm like, oh, thank God someone is saying that. Like, I don't want you know? So like becoming aware of your stuff and I'm choosing to not be offended. I'm choosing to have someone in my life who deeply cares about me and what we do together to say, like, this is what's going on. And I'm
Mm,
holding you accountable. And then I'll do the same thing, vice versa. That's like real connection and relationship, where
yeah.
it's like the accountability is there from love. But if you're coming from this victim mindset and this wounded mindset, you are always going to be offended by
Mm,
people saying their truth to you. You're going to take it personal. You're going to make it mean something about you when really they're just saying what it means for them. It's very
hmm.
hard work. I'm not saying that this is easy.
Like we're not going to do this in one session.
No, this is like, and to choose people that are willing to stick in it with you.
Yeah.
But I think that's what the horses do for people. The horses, you could say they don't have a choice, right? You could say, well, they're in a stall or, they're with me. They're not going to go choose another owner. They have to stay with me. But I do think soul contracts are real and I do think they choose before they come. They do know they're coming to do these lessons alongside of you. So I stay out of the weeds of feeling bad and overwhelmed by the things that are happening to horses. And I remember that they have chose to come. And whether they're what we perceive as a horrible experience has come to teach people what not to do, they've chosen that, so I feel like that piece is it's important and that yeah.
So interesting.
Hmm.
Actually, yeah, Shaylee sounds, and the relationship you guys have going on sounds a lot like what my bestie and I have going on. And it doesn't always look pretty, but it's real. And I think before, I mean, I have a few friends who are sadly scattered around the earth, um, somewhere in other places, not here, but she's like right living literally in the flat above now. So that's pretty cool. But the thing is, it doesn't always look pretty. It doesn't always look what you want to see. Sometimes it's the hard truth, but it's so real. And to have somebody to hold space even in the difficult moments, and for me to also go to her and say, look, I'm not going to go away just because we have this argument. Like, come here, I
Right.
love you, and then give her the hug and repair and show each other that is what connection actually is supposed to look like. It's
Hmm.
not always this linear pretty thing.
Hmm.
But yeah, that I think I I don't think everyone gets to experience that
Right.
or gets to differentiate maybe, that's actually the real thing, even if it makes me uncomfortable.
Right.
So really it's all about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Dude.
A lot. Yeah.
Oh.
And just swim in the sea of I don't know what the hell I'm doing here kind of thing. Like you said, the sea of what did you call it? The sea of
Well, I don't know. It's definitely the sea of like uncertainty and like, but that's
yeah.
where all the margin for magic is what I try
Yes.
to leave open because and that's what's hard to convey also when people are like, we want to know what's happening because we're so conditioned to want to know. So we were going to purchase this
Mm.
ticket. We need to know what we're showing up for. And
Yeah.
while we can say that, the energy of that might very well change because each of us and all of us are very much aligned with how does this feel right now and what actually needs to come forward. And that
Mm-hmm.
could change with the energy of the crowd. People are going to be different from who they are right now to who they are at the event.
Yeah.
And the beauty of having people that know how to attune to that is that you're getting an event very much customized for what your needs are, you know, um, not 2 weeks or a month beforehand, but like right in that moment. And each one of us has the ability to channel and change as we need to.
Mm.
Um, so I think that margin for magic that I don't know, but holy shit, like that's when you get all the like juicy surprises. The things that your mind can't quite even expand to yet is what you'll get when you just leave it open into that like space of surrender. Um, when you're thinking this is the way it needs to be, and this is what's going to look like. And I know I have some clients, actually, one of the girls who's going to participate has been a client of mine for a very long time. And I am very much in the flow. I have Virgo in me, so I can go do the structure if I need to, but I'm also Sagittarius and Leo. So it's like we're like over here doing all the things. And who I am is kind of a ridiculous person. Like I'm a little goofy and but it lightens up the amount of heavy stuff that people bring to me in sessions. Like there's heavy things that come in sessions
Mm.
and we don't poke fun at it, but it's like we are humaning and it is awkward and uncomfortable. And she's coming as one of the people that's going to be out there and she's very type A, lots of structure, very
Mhm.
organized. And then she's got me who I'm like, well, like she's hosted a lot of clinics for me and she's like, okay. In the beginning, it was like, I need to know what time, when are you coming? What are we doing? And Now, this last clinic I went up there and she was like, "We're just gonna leave it open." And I was like, "Oh my
Oh my God.
God." It only took how many years? And I've known her since like 2004. She was a trainer at the old
Wow.
barn. We trained side by side. She's not in training anymore, but she came to me with a horse and she became a client. So I've known her
Mm,
for a long time, but starting out, having this and now she's like, "Oh my gosh, it's just there can be structure, and then within the structure there can be so much freedom for whatever needs to happen, which is kind of what we have a schedule we will stay on. We're not
yeah.
going off into the sticks. But what happens in that time period is like we don't really want to put too much on it because we want it to be what it needs to be. So
Yeah.
yeah, the uncertainty of all things, but can bring these magical moments that you could have never planned for, and that's why we like that, the uncertainty.
Yeah. That is, I had to grow to be comfortable in that space. That's very much what I live by now, but it wasn't
Hmm.
always easy because
Hmm.
there were so many things I wanted to know and have
Hmm.
like the answers to before I do something. But I've learned to throw myself into situations and into whatever it is that needs to happen. And
Yeah.
just see what comes up, and basically, this is what landed me here. And yes, it took 10 years, you know, but actually, I think we spoke about that in the podcast for this event.
Hmm.
It was my pony's death that threw me into like really showing up now and
Hmm.
really sharing what I have to share with the world, because I kept it in here because
Hmm.
I always thought and felt like, but I don't know enough in order to
Hmm.
let it out. I need to know, like, I need to have more books on my shelf in order to teach you about this,
Hmm.
but what I learned from that death or that transition, as you called it, I really like that actually. I'm
Hmm.
going to stick with that
Hmm.
now. What I learned from that and from her through that was to just do it, just bloody do it, because you
Hmm.
don't know what's going to happen next. And if you prepare for something in like, you want to have all the puzzle pieces in place before you're going to do what it is that you actually want to do, then you might never see that. You might never get to that moment. But who or what is going to stop you from doing that right now? And when I looked at that answer, I was like, shit, that's me. So,
Oh, it's
nothing,
me.
nobody, nothing said to me like, oh, Steffi, there is the equine science police, and they are going to come to your house and they're going to get you if you don't have XYZ books in your shelf. Nobody does that. Here's the fun human part. But this is real, right? So I
Hmm.
also had this thing of I need to know more, learn more, be more, do more in order to have something to offer. But that's
Hmm.
that's bullshit. I learned
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
Sorry, speaking frank, but
Well, that's in pieces. Like, I think that's what holds people back so much. It's like, well, I'm not
Mm,
ready yet. Like, what does ready look like? You only have to be one step ahead of someone you're
yeah,
helping.
yeah.
And I think also because that was me when I started coaching, I was like, oh, God, I don't know how to help these people. Like, and then I just fell into it and just started happening where it was like, if I can just be authentic and say, this is the process I'm in and this is what's helped me. And I'm not anywhere close to where I'm going to end up,
Mm,
but this is what it looks like. And it's been messy but I'm still doing the things, and you can still have fun and have things be hard. Those two
yes.
things can coexist. You can be sad and also being moving forward. You can like all of these things don't have to be mean. If you're sad, you're moving in the wrong direction. If you're angry, you're frustrated. Part of the shadow
Mm,
work is the acceptance of all of the experiences and remembering that those emotions are just sensations in your body. Those are just sensations happening in your body, and the allowing of them is what allows them to clear,
mm,
sitting with them without a story, without judgment. Like this is sometimes I'll have people just describe it. Like if anger comes up, it's like, what does it feel like? Don't think about the word, don't call it a name. Just what are you sensationing? What are you experiencing in your body? It's
yeah.
like, well, it's also burning, it's tight, it's in my heart, and I'm gonna just continue to describe it until it dissipates. There's a lot of healing just in doing that. And it's very simple, but we're not conditioned to think this stuff is simple. We're conditioned to think there's something wrong with you if you feel that. How do we fix it? A little
Yeah.
kid
So
cries, oh,
attached to it.
yeah,
Yeah.
like the little kid is angry. What's wrong? Nothing's freaking wrong. I'm having a human emotion, oh, someone's sad, someone's crying. Oh my gosh, immediately, how do we fix this? How do we make it stop? And it's like,
Mm,
this isn't to be stopped. I'm a human which is way harder to say I have kids, and you don't want them to be suffering. So I have to be
Mm.
very careful to not meet my own needs for what my story about what a good parent is, what a good mother is. I have to make my kid feel better. No, you don't. That is not your responsibility. Like, so it's a constant challenge and unwinding, but the awareness of it is like, oh, wait, hold on in this moment. I can just let this be. I
Mm.
can let him have his own emotion. He's having his own experience. He's 11, you know. My 18-year-old, he's also having his own experience. Our teenage years were so easy. I literally was like, I win parenting. I single parented this whole time. He's 18. I did it. He's an adult. He likes me still. He never went to jail. I never had to pick him up. The cops never, like all the things
I
I
like
did
that
when I
you
was
never
young.
went to
I
jail
was like,
too.
"Ah, I know. I did all that, right?" And he hits 18, all of a sudden he hates me. I don't know. Like, you know, so yeah, we're having our own experience. Now it's like, but just sitting with it and allowing him, this is his experience right now. He has a story about who I am or what I'm doing. And I know it's a reflection of what's going on internally for him. So if I can
Mm.
remain rooted in that, I can have space and hold space for my horse to have their own experience, my little one, my big one, my partner, my friends, like whatever it is. I can say, this doesn't I don't have to make this about me to serve my own needs and my own beliefs. Like I can separate and go, they're having their own experience. It might be bumping up against my own wounding that I can go take and look at first. But I know if
Mm.
it's being activated, it means, yeah, there's something happening that, it's being triggered for me, an opportunity for growth. But it
Mm.
feels really terrible sometimes. And that's just part of it.
The human experience, hey? No, but I think that's what it is for a lot of for everything really. It's to hold space for another,
Mm,
but to not be attached to the story and not make it mean something about yourself, yet still remain connected in that
yeah,
process.
yeah. And
And
that is like the definition of holding space, right? It's like,
yeah.
I'm here and I'm with you. I see you. I'm not judging where you're at or making it mean anything. I'm just allowing you to have this experience.
Mm.
Um, which actually sometimes if someone is having that experience and they're trying to get their needs met by the other person, they will take that as disconnected, or they will take it as cold, or they will take it as, it can be met differently if, and I've had that experience where it's like, why aren't you jumping on this train with me? Why aren't you jumping on the angry train with me? And I'm like, I worked too hard to get my vibration where it is. I can hold space and let you have your experience, but I'm not jumping on that train with you.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna retell the
Don't need to all
story.
write it. It's
I'm not gonna
fine.
retell the story of why you're angry and how everything makes you angry, because I don't want angry shit in my life. And I know how the law of attraction works, and I'm not here for that. Not to say I
Mm.
don't get sucked into it sometimes, but holding space, letting people have their own experience. And if you can't, it's like, well, there's a pattern in there. And that's where you get to go, oh, I'm identifying something that I can like get curious about and, create more freedom in my experience if I do that. If I continue to be curious about my own experience, then I can continue to grow and continue to create more freedom of to be authentic and to go out into the world and not be affected by every single person and everything that happens to me and everything that's happening in the political climate, or like, like all of that can happen around me, and it is what it is, and I don't have to let it make it my experience change. So I think that's why you want to do the work. It's like the freedom piece.
Mm. I love this conversation, Amber. Thank you
And
for
this is fun.
this is so much fun. This yeah, I love talking about this stuff. We could do that for hours probably. We already are, but
Mhm.
no, I really, really do love this. And I feel like it is so difficult to put that, like all of what we talked
Mhm.
about already. And I mean, there are so many things we could look into and so many
Mhm.
avenues we could dive into. But it's so difficult to explain that to someone who maybe hasn't
Mhm.
had contact with that as much.
Right.
For somebody who is just like a clean slate basically when it
Mhm.
comes to this kind of work, then
Mhm.
it's really hard to make someone understand how much meaning, how much depth, how much beauty there is to be, how much freedom there is to be found when
Mhm.
you start diving into that journey and throw
Yeah.
yourself into the unknown. So I
Mhm.
think this is why this event is so beautiful and special, but on the other hand, difficult to
Mhm.
maybe like there is no 5 sentences that will sum it up, because
Yeah.
everyone is going to have their unique experience and it's going to be amazing and beautiful. But how do you
Mhm.
give it like five
No,
keywords?
I
This is what's
know.
going to happen.
That'll be the biggest challenge throughout, I mean, short of having the experience and having people like share, after it's like the challenge of the first one is like people don't know what to expect. But I think it's really about like the people that are going to show up are going to meant to be there. And if you have like a calling to want to show up and you don't know why, it's like because you're supposed to be there. And sometimes you just
Mm,
have to take that like leap of faith of like, I don't know why I'm here. Because I've done that for a lot of events. Like I have no idea what I'm
mm.
doing here. My very first event that really started this whole healing journey for me was walking on fire.
Wow.
And it was intense and it was huge and it was very uncertain. And I did it by myself and I didn't go with anyone. And, my whole life I'd always done everything with everyone. And it was like, I'm doing this thing. I'm gonna go walk on fire. Like, what? What are you
For
doing? I'm like,
yourself.
Amber's
Yeah.
lost her mind. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what to expect. But that event changed my life. And it is why I do what I do. The divorce changed my life and but triggered why I went to that event and opened my eyes to a lot of different things. And so sometimes it just takes going, I don't know why I want to do this, but I'm going to say yes to it. And then you
Mm,
do, and you're like, oh, wow, now I know why I said yes to that, and you walk away
mm.
like with a completely different view on the world and what you have the control to the power to do to create like your reality that you're living in, and to unbox yourself. So yeah.
Giving the power back to the people.
Yeah. Definitely.
Love that. Yeah, when you mentioned what is going to happen, I mean, obviously I know, but I'd not forgotten, but I didn't have it as present on my mind, I have to say.
Hmm.
Like exactly what and how. And when you said it, I just thought, God, I want to be there. And I thought, oh shit, I am going to
I
be
get to
there.
be
This is
there.
so cool.
That sounds fun. Sign me up. Oh, wait.
Yeah. Yeah, but I felt, I think that's it. What you explained or described is I felt that pull. I felt that
Hmm.
calling.
Yeah.
And I turned up in that world for a reason, I suppose.
Hmm. Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, I think it's going to be amazing.
Hmm.
Do we have any questions from anyone actually? We're just like chatting and
I know. Blah, 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 blah. I don't see any questions in the chat.
what is
So,
the local tribe? It says Yaqui.
oh, oh, I'm not sure. I would have to ask Malia. She would know. Um, I don't know. But yeah, we'll see what conspires with that. She's really stepped up and is helping a lot with connecting a lot of she's like, oh, this vendor would be great and this one will be fun. And the other thing we're gonna have, which I'm kind of excited about, which once we have the list of people that are coming, there is somebody who I really like, which is ironically my ex-husband's ex-girlfriend. Long story, but she's amazing.
Okay.
Um, he dated her after we were divorced, but she's in the horse world and we were kind of semi-connected. And then she had a child and she was spending time with my kid and she's a single mom. So she made a point to reach out to me and which is
Right.
great. It didn't work out, but it's fine. Worked out for me because she has a hat company and she does custom hats and does hat bands. And so what we were going to have people do if they wanted to bring horsehair from their horses. She would create custom hat bands with their own stuff.
Um,
Uh-huh. And so that'll be happening at the event. She'll have a booth there. So that'll be fun. Just like cool, creative, fun things happening. There's body art
do I
that
bring horsehair to America? Is that going to be a customs issue?
I
Is
don't
that going to
know.
be...
Is it?
Hmm.
You could probably mail it ahead of time. I don't know. Cause like what if it's on your hat? Like I have a hat band that has horsehair on it. What if it's on your hat and they're not gonna let you wear your hat? Like I don't know. Just stuff
Yeah,
in your suitcase and see what
this is
happens.
me thinking about like, okay,
You could
cool.
mail it ahead of time if you didn't want to. You
That's
can mail
true.
it to me
Yeah.
and then I'll have it here for you.
It is so soon though. It like it's the 19th of September now. So
That's okay.
it's
It's
like,
like a month away.
wow. It
Mhm.
felt like ages away, but now
Mhm.
it's so close. I love
Yeah,
that.
the energy is kicked up a notch. And I
Yeah, I
think it's
feel that.
actually,
I feel it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it feels actually, I was kind of like, oh my gosh, like we haven't been marketing enough and no one's been talking about it enough. But I feel like something happened with that freaking moon. And now I'm like, oh,
Tell
there's
me
plenty of
about
time.
it.
Plenty of time. Like there's so many people signing up, like just even today. So it's like I think
Wow.
the energy is shifted and it's like it's time. So all of my old stories about I failed and didn't mark it, and no one's going to sign up and no one's going to come. Like, it's very not true because there's a lot of people signed up now. So
Wow.
it's happening. So yeah, it's going to be pretty magical.
Oh,
Yeah,
I can't wait.
I
Honestly,
know.
it's bizarre. I have this like I have a sticky note on my computer, and every year at the end of the year I do this like the 12 nights.
Mm.
I write down 13 wishes. I burn 12 of them throughout those 12 nights,
Oh,
and then I'm
fun.
left with one, right? So I was left with one going into last year, and that wish was to speak on a stage.
Mm.
And in November last year, I get this call from this wonderful woman, and she's like, "Oh, do you want to speak on stage? I'm doing this event. It's in March." I'm like, jaw drop, basically in a Zoom call like this. I'm like, no way. Because I completely let go of that, but it's
hmm
stuck on my computer. And
hmm
on my computer now is a trip to the US. So it's actually
It's a
this
double
is
whammy. You're on a dirt stage and also coming to the
yeah,
US.
this is insane. Like to me, that feels just so amazing. Just that in itself, from it's my own little story, but it
Yeah.
feels so incredible. And then to get to connect with all of you and Jeanette as
Oh,
well.
you're
You'll
gonna
be
love
there. That's
Jeanette.
awesome.
You're gonna love Jeanette. We love Jeanette. Yeah, there's a lot of
That's so
people that we have met at some of our other events that are like family and they're diehards. And so some of
This
them are
is what
coming.
it feels like,
Yeah.
though. This is what I that's what I mean by coming home to like the tribe or to sweet. Coming home to the soul family in a
hmm
sense. That's what it feels
Yeah.
like to me as well. We've never met in person, like
No.
in
Yeah.
actual real,
And I
but
think who did I had never met in person? The first elements of connection, which was like the contractions of this event for me. While I
hmm
was gestation of it was like, well, let's see what this is. It's kind of smaller, a little more intimate. Let's see. But a lot of people I had never met in person. I think I had never met Shaylee in person actually until that first Elements, but we'd already had a podcast and talked every day and so it doesn't
wow.
feel like, I picked her from the airport. I'm like, oh my God, you're real. It was, but it's like the moment you talk to have that conversation with someone through podcasts or through
Mm,
whatever, it's like there's just certain people who are like, oh yeah, we're definitely supposed to know each other. Like that's a no-brainer and we're gonna do
mm,
shit together and it's gonna be amazing. Um, so I think, yeah, once you get to actually like see them in real life, and you're like, oh, you're real. I can touch you, can hug you. Like this is so exciting. Just makes it so much better, which is why I really wanted, I could have done this event online very easily, and it could have had a lot of people. It could have been very, very potent for people. It could have been just as, but I was like, people need to be in the presence of people, like in real
mm.
life. Like I want it to be in real life,
Yeah.
which live streaming it feels like maybe, maybe not. I don't know, because it's not the same. And I want the experience of like the real life stuff because it's so different. And COVID kind of was weird and it's great we have
Mm.
technology, but like I'm over that now. Like let's get back in real life and hug
Let's not
people and
bring
shit.
COVID back. So
Yeah.
let's,
It's like it was
yeah.
kind of a fun time for me, but also it was like, yay, it was like the power went out at school and everyone got to like stay home and you know but also it was annoying. So yeah, we don't need that. We don't need that anymore.
Yeah, and people need to be in the presence of other people and
hmm
feel that energy. And I think like I work predominantly online as well, but I I do recognize that it's very different to come together in one place and to
Yeah,
actually be immersed in that energy because there's only so much of that that's going to um that's going to come across online.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, it's gonna be great. Oh my God, we've talked for an hour and a half.
I know. And then I mean there's still I have so many more questions that people sent in.
Yeah.
Um I think I think one of them, I mean, two of them we can answer fairly quickly. One of
hmm
them is, can I participate online? So you already mentioned there is an online portion of the event, but then there's
hmm
a live event, and it's still not certain whether there is going to be a
Yeah.
video or live or not.
Yeah.
So that's easy to answer.
hmm
We talked about that. We talked about what can I learn for myself and my horse? I think we talked about a lot of things that we can
Yeah.
learn. Is there
Yeah.
anything you'd like to add to that?
I think it's really about what will happen is what Shaylee and I intend to do is really open you up. I connect the person to themselves. She really connects them to their animals. So she will lead people through meditations. If you don't know who Shaylee is, she is a very potent animal communicator, and she doesn't just talk about like your dog likes its red leash, or this. It's like, here's the lesson, here's the soul contract, this is what they're bringing forward. So it's much more than animal communication, but really her commitment to teaching it to people is because she, and we all know that your ability to be able to receive those communications from your animals is very, very true. A lot of it is you're blocking it for yourself. So what we do is I unclog you, and then she'll connect you up. And those lessons will be very clear to you once you are there, and you will receive them. They're individual to each person, right? And coming from your own
Mhm.
animal. So you will be able to be connected with your own animal, whether they are there or not. And you will be able to put into a position and a mindset and a brainwave where you will be able to receive those messages from them. So you will get that from them for sure. And then you can do it over and over when you're home.
That's good. I love that.
Mhm.
Can't wait. I'm just going to sift through these other questions, see what else is there. Um, I love that people are ready for the magic. I'm ready for
I
the
know.
magic.
Me too.
You know, it was very strange for me to because the science thing, right? Science for soundness. It's a trigger, but it's
The
my
science, that
story.
science thing.
The
People,
science
but
thing.
like
That's
people, like the fact that you understand both sides of it. And like
mm.
that's the thing. Celeste brings in people that want horses to be sound,
Hmm.
and then all of a sudden there's this whole piece where like, oh shit, I've just met myself and my horse for the first time. You're doing that through like, I'm a scientist, but also come here, let me show you. So
Yeah.
it's like me being a horse trainer, or a coach. It's like that's the bridge, and that's okay. It's
Mm.
what people can hear and see that maybe don't know there's more, but
Yeah.
that's how you get them.
Yeah.
That's
It's
how
the
we
bridge.
get
I
you.
like that.
Come here, and it's fine. So it's a bridge. The title is a bridge for people to come to
Mm.
the light side.
How do I just got onto that? I don't know. I just read a question and it just got a thought. Now I'm squirrel, so it's fine. We're fine. It's a bridge. Um, no, but I don't know why I just mentioned that. What did I read? What kind of hmm. Maybe. I don't know. No, that's not what it was. I forgot, but it doesn't matter. Oh, the magic. That's it. I read the comment. The
Oh yeah.
magic. That's it. That was the bridge for me. So the thing is, I never used to speak in those terms because people like to pin me to that science, right?
Hmm.
And they like to go, yeah, but Steffi, she's doing science for soundness, so it's science. And I had this journalist come to me last year in the summer sometime, and she wanted to do this home story interview. And she came to me, and I was the only one that she'd interviewed who she didn't research up front. So she
Hmm.
didn't really check out my content. She didn't look at, what I'm doing and how I'm doing it
Hmm.
and all that. And then she came and she was like gobsmacked almost. It was very interesting because in the end she was like, this is not what I expected. And I said,
Good.
what did you expect? And then she was like, I thought you were going to get me hard facts and details and like scientific shit. And I was like,
Mm.
yeah, but we did talk about that. And she's like, when and how? And I was like, we kind of did, but it was woven into the magic. And I started using words like that more and
Hmm.
more because that's more representing who I am. But I
Yeah.
was very hesitant with that before because I was always pinned to this science thing. But
Right.
it kind of changed with that interview because I was like, nah, this is my home. I'm gonna talk like I want to talk.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
I'm
say
not going to be
magic.
something I'm not in my own home.
Yeah. And then she said, like, what does it feel like? And I think it was something to do with how does this connection piece feel to you when you're really like in that moment? And I said, like magic. And then she said, okay, but what does that look like or feel like? And I said, feather light. That's what
Mhm.
it feels like. It's not like I'm joyful and it feels feather light. It's not, there's nothing to it really.
Mhm.
And she's like, okay, we can work with that. And yeah, but I started using that more and more, speaking about magic. So I'm happy to see that people are ready for the magic. I am too. There is one, so we did talk about that. For what kind of horse and or human topics or problems will we see solutions, suggestions, or perspectives? I think that is pretty individual to, we don't know yet who the horses and people will be. And
Yeah.
also, I love how you said that we will be in the moment and not decide what it's going to be up front. I mean, we'll
Yeah.
bring something, but
Yeah, I think there's multiple disciplines, multiple breeds, multiple ages, multiple levels, and different issues. Like some are shut down, some have anxiety, some haven't been started, some have are coming with trauma, you know. So there's just it's like a little party mix of horses. We try to keep it
I
really
like that.
diverse. So yeah.
I like that. I also like the idea of it not being tailored to a specific problem or discipline or,
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, that can be really potent, don't get me wrong, to go to those events, but at the same time, to be immersed in that magic, you can bring whatever it is that is going on for you at any
Yeah.
given point in time.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, they're all horses, you know, they all
Yeah.
are just horsing. And the details of each discipline are, they're so simple. You know, I think people make that more complicated. I'm like, that part's easy. You know, I know how to train a horse in multiple different disciplines, but actually, and make them look good and go show and win. But
Mm,
that's not the hard part. If you get the nervous system and the body and everything together foundationally, all the details are easy to go put together and learn. If you're not pushing through resistance, if you're not fighting the horse and the horse isn't worried and tense, then everything you ask of them is very easily understood and it's a piece of fucking cake. It's the
mm,
other stuff that makes it challenging, you know? It's like, well, they
yeah.
don't go off my left leg, but why? Why?
Hmm.
You know, like that's not the problem. The problem is not them moving off it's not a training issue. You know, there's another issue happening beyond that. And so I think that's what we're actually addressing.
Mm. So interesting. I just had this thought pop into my head that very often I experience that if people want to say, like, if it's not a training issue, then it's a behavior issue.
Mm.
And I found that really difficult, if I'm honest, because
Hmm.
like you're saying, it's so much more to it than that. And to pin it A on the horse is
Hmm.
there's a little thumb coming up. Nope, let's not thumb up for that. But to pin it on the horse is one thing that really um feels a bit icky for me. And
Yeah.
then to say, well, if it's not a training issue, then it must be the behavior. So either or, but there is so much more than that goes into also your
Yeah.
training and also the
Yeah.
behavior. So
And
yeah.
I think of behavior as just communication. Like how else are they supposed
Mm.
to tell you that something's not working for them?
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a communication issue. It's not a behavioral issue. It's a freaking
Mm.
communication issue. They're trying to tell you something and you're not listening or you haven't figured it out yet, you know? And
Yeah.
so whether that's your inability to like sit and be with it and figure it out or your desire not your lack of desire to do that or but you know everything that they do is like trying to express how they feel about the current situation
Yeah.
and if we're not listening then what's the point you know
Yeah.
that fly we
Yeah, you
need
saw that,
we're
right?
gonna need to name that it needs its own name like
Hmm.
Steffi Amber and like Harold.
I was gonna say Hubert. That's pretty close.
We all went live today.
Hmm.
All three of us.
Um, I have a few more. Come on, buddy. Just give me like a few more minutes, please.
It's just so big, like I can see it. I
Right.
can see
And
it
it goes
flying
right in
around.
front of the camera all the time. I have some more questions. I have some general questions. Some of them might be interesting.
Mm,
And I have one very specific question, which also might link in beautifully with your work and my work, actually. Um, so let's pick one. So maybe
mhm.
one general question and then one specific question, because I think we've talked about a lot. But you're also okay to say, like, that's enough for today, Steffi.
No, my schedule is open.
Perfect. Okay, so a general question is what are your top 5 principles for being with horses that came up from the last years, maybe?
Mm. Um, there's so many things. When I think of principles, I think of these like hard set. like this is always true, no matter what horse I'm working with. Um, and so I look at what they're telling me is always true. Like
Mm,
that communication is always real for them, whether I like it or not, or whether I want to put my own spin on it or not. Because even as someone who's aware that that happens, I will still catch myself like, oh, well, da da. I'm like, wait, is that my truth, or is that maybe something that's not even to do with, them?
mm,
So one of the principles being like their communication is always their communication, and it is they are telling you they don't like something, then they in fact do not like something and is not anything else other than they're hungry, they're cranky, they're whatever, but they're communicating and it's to be received and heard and taken into account. Um, that the person, the human, that always has to be responsible for their part in the relationship. I feel like
mm,
that's really important. I don't work with clients who resist that because they're just not ready. And there's a lot of people that can bridge that gap and then maybe they'll be ready. There's trainers out there that are bridging that gap, that is their place in the world. But for me, I will not work with someone unless they are like, yeah, like I'm ready to be responsible. Even if you struggle with that, that's fine.
mm,
But if that the knowing is there, I'm ready to be responsible. I'm ready to take my power back. I'm ready to say, what is my part in this that is maybe creating the situation that we're in? Um, what else? I mean, those are the main two that I feel like the honoring of their truth and your own truth as a
mm,
partnership, and going, I don't feel good about this. Good, don't do it then. Because it does go both ways when you talk about boundaries. The boundaries are like my number one thing that I start with, regardless of what's going on for the horse or the person.
mm,
And I think people will they get uncomfortable with that because people will come and their horse is walking all over them. And I establish that boundary right off the bat. The horses receive it very easily from me because of my belief systems around boundaries.
mm,
Um, I don't feel a way about boundaries. I don't feel like they're mean. I don't feel like they push people away. I don't feel like they're rude. I don't feel like they're aggressive. I feel like my safety is my first priority, emotionally, energetically, physically. And I want the whoever I'm dancing with, whether it's a horse or a person, to understand that they also are allowed and have permission to tell me where their boundary is. So by me saying, this is what's safe for me and what's not safe for me, I'm giving permission to the person, horse that I'm working with to do the same thing. So
mm,
if I have a horse that's coming over the top of me, I'm not necessarily going after them, but I am energetically, because I don't have beliefs about it and I feel good about boundaries, I can tap the whip on the ground or the flag or whatever. And then they can do whatever they want as long as it's away from me. They can kick, they can bite, they can pin their ears, whatever it is, as long as it's their own expression out of my space. There's
mm,
no reprimanding, there's no whatever, just don't do it here. Neither one of us are allowed to get hurt. And so, but if you have a person who is like a people pleaser or has this old story stuff going on, most of the time those horses are going to walk all over them. And even if they take the flag and they smack the whip on the ground and do the things that I say, I can't give you an exercise or a technique because if you don't believe and you're not
mhm,
aligned with it, the horse is not going to respond anyways. So oftentimes I will take people with the lunge whip or, with the flag, and I don't have a story about any of those tools either. So
mhm,
my horses are not afraid of them. It's like it's just an easier way for me to show you what I want. No one's getting hit. Like I'm not beating on anyone. It's like, but some people have very strong beliefs around whips and, flags and whatever else. And I think it's your own story about it that creates the experience for the horse. Because I've had people go, my horse is afraid of the flag. My horse is this. And I'm like, it's just a flag. And I'm like, and the horse is like, oh, snort, snort. Oh, it's just a flag, immediately. And people are like, I'm like, is it your story or is it there? So that leads you back to my responsibility, right? I will have people go out into the round pen and whip the ground. And it's almost like a somatic experiencing
mm.
um thing where I'm like, go whip the ground, do it all, change arms hard as you can. Like, and people will be very like, it's almost like this is a form of self-expression. If you're
Yeah.
worried about your voice, if you're worried about speaking how you feel, if you're worried about like it'll come out, in the way you whip the ground. And it's fascinating because you can have a horse out there with you and you can be whipping the ground really hard and the horse will just after like the first like 10 seconds, they recognize it has nothing to do with them and they'll cock a foot and watch the freaking human show, where it's like, what are they doing? My horse is like, what are they doing now? Like, oh God, let's go to the fence line and watch. This is ridiculous. So it's like the intention behind the things, it's so important for people to just like, how come you have the story about what a boundary is? What's
Mm.
wrong with it? How come you can't show up for
Hmm.
yourself? And it all comes out. People will cry. They're whipping it, crying. Like, like this is all just stuff that like happens in my round pen out here, and then all of a sudden it's like to the other side when you see a shift and you feel like, oh, the shoulders go back, something happens. It's like you're allowed to be safe in your experience here. Like you are allowed to have your own space. You're not telling your horse what to do. All you're saying is have your own horse experience, but right there. That's what they do for each other. I watch my horses
Mm.
when I put new horses out, training horses that are dysregulated. I watch what they do, and I know that what I am doing is what they do. But the difference is the alignment. Like I don't have to whip the ground. I just go tap, tap, and I go, how is it? Why is that horse moving away from me? I mean, because it's my beliefs around energetically is what my beliefs are creating the energy that's being exuded, what is what they are actually reading. I don't
Mm.
feel like it's our words, our cues, even our body language. Sometimes I feel like when you watch people that somehow magically make horses do all the things is they are so in tune with how they feel, what they want, that the horse is like, oh, I'm reading that from them. And maybe there's little cues here and there, but the bigger you have to get here, it's most likely because,
Mm.
here it doesn't feel right. So I'll use that as an example of the boundaries thing. It's the first thing I do because I can tell so much about a person about the way they lead their horse from the trailer when they show up to like through the parking lot. And I'm like, okay, we start there. So that's just one of the core things that I start with always because you can really unravel a lot there. And then the horse will walk out of the round feeling completely different, relaxed, and the person is relaxed and everyone's safe. And it's like most people don't know how to lead their horses, which is wild
Mm.
to me. It's wild to me. And,
I
and
know.
it's like, how long have you had a horse? 20 years. It's like,
Like the
and you've survived 20 years like this, but it's true. And it's because people are in fear. And we have a trainer that comes out here and she helps people with their, bodies. And I've known her for a long time. And one of my clients comes to me and she's like, so I'm just have a question because I've been taking lessons and, she told me to lead. I'm here. And I was like, it's a fear thing. It's a control thing. And I was like, don't do whatever feels good to you. I encourage my clients to go take lessons and, as long as the person is not crazy and like take what you need. It's so you can use your own discernment. And how do you use
Mm.
your voice to say, I won't be doing that? You know, thank you for the invitation to try that. That's not my jam. And, so
Mm.
it's these opportunities to be able to do that for yourself. But usually that's a fear thing. And I don't want, if my horse is going to freak out, I don't want her right here. Go over there. Go have your moment and be worried over there, you know?
Yeah.
So, that boundary is such a big thing. And the boundaries leave a safe space for you to be able to connect. That is like the cornerstone for the connection piece. It's the foundation of it. Like you're safe to express, I'm safe to express you know um but it goes both ways where if I'm approaching a horse and they turn their head and they say no, then I'm going to back off and go, okay, sorry, what like what happened there, and get
Mm.
curious, right? So it's not like I'm the only one that gets to have the boundaries. It goes both ways, but a lot of times horses get reprimanded for kicking out or biting or pinning ears and they're growling at them and stuff, and it's
Mhm.
like they're just telling you where they're at right now, and can you explore what happened in that moment to create that, because you would want
So
the
much
same thing.
information in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's something that in every conversation I've had over the last, I don't know, like years, 2 years probably, that is the thing that keeps coming back. That is so interesting how not a lot of people are able to actually read those situations, those moments, because they're so stuck in their own
Hmm.
fear responses in survival. And they're not, because if you are in survival, you're not going to be able to see the bigger picture, right? You're just
Right.
looking out for your safety. So that is so interesting how that information gets lost and then the horse gets reprimanded. And I
Hmm.
mean, there are so many layers to that. But it's just so interesting because it keeps coming back to that. And I like how you call it the boundaries because
Hmm.
that is what it is.
Hmm.
And also that
Yeah.
leading piece as well. It's is that is also wild to me. And this control and fear, that is how it works, right? Fear
Right.
wants control. But to understand that, you have to again face all of those
Mhm.
demons, I always like to say. Face those demons and look into what is actually going on for me right now, and
Yeah.
ask yourself why. But
Hmm.
that's
Yeah, and
hard.
the acceptance of it, right? It's like, oh,
Mm.
why is because once I was ran over, or once I got kicked. And so it's like, great. I'm so glad that I have this beautiful brain that can unconsciously run all of these programs to keep me safe. But to recognize,
Fantastic.
yeah,
Tick.
great. But to also then go, okay, but wait, because it's not necessarily relevant for every situation I'm in ever. And how can I kind of take my power back from my brain and go, wait, what is happening right now? Because I have had people, same thing with the mounting block, horses walking off, or um different problems at the mounting block, where it's like the person will have so much fear because something has happened, and they'll stand at the top of the mounting block, and I do a whole regulation of their system, and the horse is passed out, totally asleep, waiting, not walking off. And I'll say, okay, put a leg over. And they're like, oh, no. And everyone in the clinic's like witnessing. It's like, what do you,
Mhm.
no, put a leg over. No, he's going to take off. Do you see how nervous he looks? Literally, I've had this happen more than once. And the
And
horse
you're
is
like,
out because you're so in your response of something is going to, and and then we have to go back. What's actually happening right in front of you? What is real right now? And it's like, oh, and but the thing is that you actually physically have to take a step and put the leg over for your nervous system to go, oh shit, we didn't die. And to be able to do that in a place where it is actually safe to do that. And you have someone that can say, this is actually what's happening. I promise you, this horse is not going to go anywhere. It might fall over if we don't get on soon, but
you're not
but
gonna
have
die.
someone to facilitate that and then have it, you know, and it's the same thing doing with the horses where it's like, I don't desensitize. I expand the horse's capacity to hold and handle situations that are stressful. We're never going
Mm.
to find everything in the world, just like we aren't. We can't wave a tarp at ourselves for hours and then expect to go out into the real world and never have a car pull out in front of us, or, somebody hurt our feelings or whatever. It's like, that's not the way it works. Um,
Mm.
it's like expanding your capacity to hold stressful situations or bigger, more challenging things. It's what I want to do for the horses and what I want to do for people. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, I love this conversation so much, but it's been almost 2 hours, or
I know.
actually
Wow.
close to 2 hours.
Shit. How did that happen?
I don't know. This is what happens when you're having fun. Um, should we look at this one specific question? Because I think I'm gonna just
Mhm.
hand that to you and then let you answer that. And then I don't know, people who are present with us, if you have any questions.
You guys are diehards, man. You're really hanging in there.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. But it's good. It's good. Just
Mhm.
soak up, soak up. So this question is saying, from it, that's not what the question's saying. Can you go bend? Yeah, just a little bit longer. He's like, the hour is
He's like,
done.
what is going on?
Yeah, they're so funny. They know exactly when the hour strikes. So usually my calls are always an hour, and then they know, I think they sense that energy shift,
Mhm.
right? And then they just both jump up and they come here and they're like, right, we're here now. We're done. It's pretty a celebration always. So back to the question. It says, I am afraid of overlooking a sign of discomfort in my horse. I'm always thinking that I need to improve or change something, the food, the training, the hooves, husbandry, etc. And as a result, I often interpret her behavior negatively or even over-interpret normal behavior.
Mm.
What can I do to get out of this? I love that question, by the way.
Yeah, it's so good. Anytime I have a client like this, I actually ask them what they do for a living. Um, because it usually correlates with, I think we choose disciplines of writing and
You
that is
choose
aligned with
wisdom.
our personality or professions when I find people that are hyper vigilant and looking for stuff like that, they're usually
Mm.
caretakers of some sort, like a nurse or like it's so interesting and I love just watching for those patterns. But I my dog is snoring so loud that it's coming through my earphones from my microphone.
I didn't hear that.
Like, what is that? Um, is that oftentimes, which is such a relevant thing for so many people, and we talk about it a lot on Shaylee and I's podcast, because your story is not their story. And most of the time she'll talk to animals and she has so many stories like this where they're like, this is just not that big of a deal. And really starting to ask yourself, why do I need, this is a really rough question that people kind of get a little like, why do I need there to be something wrong? Why, what happens if things are all just okay? What happens if everything is perfect? What happens if the food is right? What happens if a person like this is not going to miss any signs of discomfort for
Mhm.
sure? But yes, if you need, it kind of sometimes will spill into like a codependent vibe,
Mhm.
where horses will, oh, my horse has, my horse colics all the time. My horse has allergies. My horse is food sensitive. My horse is lame on and off all the time. While those things can be looked at as 3D, they are often, how do we, almost manifested, like, and exaggerated energetically by your tension and your energy being shared with them, where it like creates this disharmony in their body. And I only say that because we've seen it so much. I don't know how it happens or how it works. I'm still boxed in a little bit around that, but I do know it is a thing. So the having a horse that has a lot of high maintenance things, I'm always looking to ask what am I, what's serving me? How does it benefit me? Does it make me able to, always have to focus on them and not on myself is usually a correlation. If I have this horse that has all these things, it's great because I'm very much distracted by fixing them, sorting them out. What do they need? When it's like, what are you not wanting to look at here? What do you need? And
Mm.
a lot of people have a belief that's selfish to look at self, give yourself time, give yourself space, give yourself the things. And so I would dig around in that personal, like, how is it serving me to have a horse like this? What does it do for me? Sometimes if you're really like deep seated in these beliefs, you have to go into like a theta brainwave where you're like taken into an active imagination, where you're taken into a meditation. These are the things that I'll do on like private journeys where there's music, you get grounded, your brainwave gets switched over, and you start to dig in your subconscious, and these answers will just show up where you're like, oh, did I write that? I'm like, yeah, that's like truth, man. I'm like, sorry. When it's like, well, then I don't have to see myself. Then I don't have to take care of myself. And
Mm.
it's like, it's not something that your conscious brain goes, this is why I'm doing this, but it is the work that's happening at a subconscious level. So digging around in there is usually where you find those answers. But it's usually that. I mean,
Oh,
not to say there aren't horses that
I think
have,
my internet got stuck.
oh, yeah, I can hear you. You're just frozen. You're not even making a weird face though, so it's fine. But anyways, yeah. So for that person, since we're still recording, I would say start to ask yourself, and for anyone else that's having this experience, because I know it's not just a single thing, it's how is this serving me to have a horse like this? And it doesn't have to be negative either, maybe it's keeping you from riding, but maybe that is somehow serving you. I don't want to ride. I'm scared to ride. I'm scared to be judged when I'm riding. I'm scared I'm not going to be in a certain place or not. So, that kind of stuff. So I would say, let me find you again. Um, so yeah. So asking yourself those questions, how is this serving me? You know, it's an uncomfortable question for sure.
Definitely. Sorry, I just missed some of it because my Zoom crashed.
I just kept going because I knew it was still recording. But
Yeah,
basically
that's
that's the
cool.
thing. It's asking in any realm, lame horses, troubled horses, whatever, how is this serving me? Like how is this meeting
Yeah.
my needs? And sometimes that feels like kind of icky, but there's a lot of truth in it when you can answer those questions that, you know, sorry,
Yeah,
but not.
definitely. No, don't be sorry because I think I think it needs people like you or me probably or all the other presenters and people who come to this event to ask these uncomfortable questions because otherwise I always think of it as almost like a door. You're not going to look behind that door if you don't know it's going to open.
Right.
And you need some situation, some person, something, some event, some experience to happen for this door to open
Hmm.
to then look, oh, there's more. There are more doors. Let's have a look at that, right? But you
Hmm.
you need to ask those uncomfortable questions in order to
Yeah.
get through to all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah. And I
you.
feel
Thank
like if
you.
you're always looking for something that's wrong, you are going to find things that are wrong everywhere.
Yeah,
That is
because there
just,
is a lot of stuff wrong.
yeah. And Shaylee's like that actually, where she'll obsess a little bit. And then I'm like, Shaylee. And she's like, I'm not going to look for, and someone be like, your horse is kind of off. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'll check back in with them at the end of the day or maybe tomorrow. And then, and then I look and, they're like, a little bit sore. I'll see, I'll look again tomorrow, but I'm not going to pull them out and like just, unless it's like they are like lame, broken leg, like obvious
Mm.
cut, whatever. But if there's like, you can get so, especially when you start to dive into body work and you understand the body, you can find everything wrong. And Shaylee was actually here and she was with my horses and she was like, I can see stuff. She's like, but I don't obsess over it. I just see them for who they are. And that is their body. We all have stuff, and if
Yeah.
we walked around and everyone was analyzing us all the time, how does it feel to be in a relationship with
Oh
someone
my God.
when you show up and they come and they're like, hey, look at all the things that you
Like
need.
this as
And,
well.
and the horses are like, dude, I'm just horsing, man. Like, can we go for a walk and you not analyze me and over
Yeah.
worry and stress out? Like, let's enjoy the time we have together because your worry is not actually fixing or making things better. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, so it's, it's human thing to do, but it's also there's looking for the things that are going right with the horse, or finding a way to meditate beforehand and even visualizing all of the things that are right and all of the things that you think are wrong and creating health and balance in those ways and seeing what comes up for you when you try to do that. If there's resistance, it's probably coming from you. Uh.
Mm. That's the thing, isn't it? I personally experienced becoming the stressor for my horse. And so I can vouch for that. Like going up to the horse like this is not going to help
No,
them.
they're like,
My
excuse me.
Yeah, it's honestly, and it struck me in that moment because I thought, shit, this is what I do for a living. And I'm like, I
It's
am
harder when you
doing,
do that for a living. It makes it worse.
oh my God,
I'll say more
right?
challenging.
It's yeah, because the more you see, the more you see, and the more you understand how much you don't understand.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like it happens to all of us that we
Hmm.
we go out looking, and especially if you're worried about something. For me,
Hmm.
it was the worry about losing her as well. And I
Yes.
was so sure that she was going to die just after her best friend died. I was
Hmm.
so sure that this was going to happen. And what had happened is no, she didn't die,
Hmm.
but she got stuck in the fence and laid there for maybe 4 or 5 hours and then had neurological problems afterwards. And every day, I kept going out looking at her like, what's wrong with you today?
Hmm.
But how shitty is that? Like exactly what you're
Hmm.
saying. How shitty is that to go to someone you deeply care about and go, what's wrong with you today?
Hmm.
Instead of going, how are you? I mean, that's an open-ended question,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
But what's wrong
Because
with you
I
today?
and what I've learned from having so many conversations with Shaylee is that she's like, yeah, if horses are happy, there's a lot of pain they don't actually experience. They can be lame and not actively being experiencing pain. And I worked
Mm,
with another person who's a close friend of mine who was really drove home like pain is in the brain. You know what I mean? Like your brain is interpreting the pain.
mm,
And, yes, there are sensors that tell you there's dysfunction here, and then it goes to the brain and tells you. She's like, but the pain can be so much more exaggerated when also added with stress. We know that
mm.
for our own bodies. Like I have aches and pains. If I'm not actively thinking about stuff in that present moment, it's not affecting me. But if someone says, "How's your back?" I'm like, "Oh, actually, my back's pretty sore." It's
Yeah,
like,
you're all of a sudden giving it
and I'm like,
energy.
oh yeah. So we do the same thing to them where it's like, maybe they aren't. I don't walk perfectly straight. Like I have, hardware in my right leg, and sometimes it gets sore, but like it's not creating a horrible life experience for me. It's just something I've
Mm,
learned to work around, and it's part of me. And but if every time someone addressed me and they're like, "Oh my God, your ankle looks really bad today. Should we ice it? Should we?" I'm like, this is just an old thing. Like, no,
wow.
I'm just doing life. Like, yeah, maybe
Like boundaries.
every time when I do a lameness exam with a vet, they always make a comment about me trotting. You're a little off on the right. I'm like, oh, that's so funny. I have never heard that before. But
Never
you know what
happened.
I mean? It's like we all have stuff. It doesn't necessarily mean our lives are being that impacted. If you have a
Yeah.
story about it for them, that's us. It doesn't mean that's their experience at all.
I think it's also hard to expect, or not hard, but maybe not right. Difficult. I don't have the right word for it, but I find it difficult that there is this expectation of them having to be perfect all the time,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we are not.
Right.
I'm certainly not. You just said you're not. So
Hmm.
where does this expectation come from that our horses have to be perfect 100% of the time?
Yeah.
That's not likely what is reality.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, especially if they're out living their best life with a herd of horses and even in a stall. My mare, I used to think that people that said their horses get hurt all the time were like, I'm like, oh yeah, well, that's, I have a horse that does that. I think it'd be exponentially worse if I was worried about her doing that all the time. But that horse, since a very young age, has got stuck in big Rubbermaid feeders. She's gotten cast on literally everything multiple times. Like, but I don't sit out up here and think, what was that sound? That was probably clever. Has there been times that it was in fact her? Yeah, of course. I had to go out there and try to unwedge her by myself, and she's huge. And, so, but I don't obsess over it. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And then I just have to trust in those moments that I'll figure it out. And if I don't, I'm not supposed, like, there's just this like surrender that has to happen on a regular basis when you're with
mhm.
horses to allow them to live their best life, and
Yeah.
and they're gonna get hurt and they're gonna get dinged up and oh my horses get scratches and stuff and people are like, do you want ointment? I'm like, no, that's what their like bodies have
Yeah,
scabs and
it's just
scabs and
have
stuff happen. Like
body
I
heal
just stick
thyself.
you stick goo on it and then all the dirt gets stuck to it and then it's like slimy and gross. And I'm more of like, if it's not openly actively needing sutures, I kind of maybe rinse it off, but sometimes no. Like I'm very
Yeah,
minimalist when
sometimes
it
I spray
comes.
some disinfectant, but
Yeah,
that's it.
like
Like I'm
yeah,
very much like that too. Just let it
yeah.
do what it needs to do.
Like its body has its things set in place to do that. So I'm not going to interfere. You see
Mhm.
people are just scrubbing every day and wrapping and it's like, are you actually making it
Gets bigger and
better?
bigger and bigger.
Yes. So I try
Uh,
not to give too much attention to the things that I don't want in
mm,
life in general and also with my horses.
yeah,
Hmm.
I like that. I hope that answered your question. I think it did. Slight digression.
Yeah. How did we get here?
Yeah, just like what, 2 hours? 2 hours into it and just like drifting around topics, but I really love it. Just
Yeah, we'll have to break it up in chunks for people.
floating.
My
Hmm.
little my little note taker dipped out on us in the beginning, so
Oh, did it? Oh no.
and then said it was here and I think it left. I don't know. Whatever. It'll be fine. I'll figure it out.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
But are there any questions from anyone who is
Ooh,
here with us still? Diehard people. I love that.
yes, you guys
Good
are very
night.
hardcore.
But it answered the question. Cool.
Mad.
Thank you for being here, Petra. It's awesome. Love it.
Fun.
Mm. So yeah, but I think it's just so easy, isn't it, to start to overanalyze things. Especially for me, it is the facial expressions, and it's so easy to fall into that trap of when you learn, like once you learn certain things, you look out for those certain things, and you see them everywhere, and you go, "Oh
Hmm.
shit."
Yeah.
But that's also part of it, isn't it, to understand um to differentiate and then to give it context and to understand what it actually means for this particular individual. And
Yeah.
it's not a blanket thing for everyone,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. I have a mare who has resting bitch face in her stall. I've had her since she was a baby. She's literally made that face at me. I weaned her and I was like so excited the first day I came back, dropped her mom off, and she had her little buddies and she's napping. I'm like, oh my God, she's napping. And this is gonna be the start of this amazing, like, love. And I go to like sit next to her. She's laying down and she's like pins her ears at me. And I was like, oh, what? You're just a baby. Like,
Hello.
whoa. But she is the boundary queen. She is all expression. She's everything I could hope to be as a woman. She's just fully expressed. And so if she's in their stall in the barn, you walk up, she pins her ears, but once you get within the like foot range, she's like, oh, hi. And her ears come forward. It's like I can make a
Oh.
story about what that face means. And I almost feel like it's like, hurry and get your ass over here. Like,
Mm.
because once you get there, the face is not there. She's happy. She's so sweet and she's so happy to human and be with people.
Oh.
But she makes that face. And if I were to, have some sort of story about it, she would, maybe people would be growling at her and waving their hands at her and shooing her back into her stall. Like a lot of boarding stables, people don't let them make that face. And I'm like, it's just her face, dude. Everyone out here understands it. And everyone's like, oh, look at Clover, and they walk up and pet her and her ears come forward. I don't know. Like, so it's like their expressions are their expressions. And yeah,
Mm.
so getting too far into the sticks about your story, what's my story and what's their truth. If her ear stayed back and she tried to bite me when I got there, then I would know, well, there's definitely obviously something going on we need to sort out. But I get up to her stall and she puts her ears forward and stuffs her face in the halter and off we go. So it's like, well, that's not her story about her face. It's just her
Mm.
face. So
It's
just,
the way she's expressing. Yeah,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. Oh, this has been so awesome. I love this. This is
hmm
has been such a fun conversation
Yeah. We should
on
do this more
literally
often.
everything. Like I think we went pretty much full circle on a lot of
Yeah.
stuff.
Talked about all the things.
But I don't think there are any more questions from people who are present. Are there any people? Yeah, there are some people.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. What do you think? Should we wrap it up? So you
Yeah.
have, yeah. I mean, we could. This I can see this is happening. If we're not going to put a stop to that, I can see us going into all, like you say, into the sticks, like into all different
This is how
directions. And
this is how Shaylee and I ended up starting a podcast together because we would have these
yeah,
conversations, but we should have recorded that. It was a really like actually cool,
I'm
so we
having
should.
thoughts, Amber.
I know, I know. Well, the Art of Equine Alchemy, the little podcast that's separate from that, I was like, I kind of after and beyond the event, I was like, just to be able to come on and have like casual conversations like this and like not have a
Mm.
natural topic, just like blab like Shaylee and I do, but with like a different, a lot of different people, kind of feels like what's gonna happen after I get through this event, after my space
Hmm.
is opened back up in my soul for this, to build up to next year to do it all over again. So,
It's going to be awesome.
yeah, it's gonna be
I
great.
really, I really cannot wait for it. Honestly, I
Yeah.
feel so excited. And the closer we get to it, I'm
Yeah.
like bouncing around the place and people coming up to me asking me about it. And
hmm
yeah, just
That's
everyone's
fun.
really excited.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's gonna be cool. I'm excited. So, yay. Okay. Well, I guess I'll stick the link for it in the show notes for you guys that are listening to the replay. Maybe I'll stick it on the podcast part. And I'll probably break it up in like two
Sure.
sections. Yeah, at least two sections because this is a long one. Um,
Sorry.
sorry, not sorry. Um,
Exactly.
but yeah, I'm looking forward to everyone who's watching this. If you guys have questions after this, you can, I don't know, message me or Steffi and we'll get to them somehow. And the link has all the info, the 3D info that no near touches what the event is about, but we can't do anything about that
Hmm.
yet. So here you are. And if you listen to it, then you have a better idea.
Yes. Come join
Well,
the magic.
yes.
Be
All
there with us.
right. Then
Awesome.